Hello everybody, what a great night of fights last night. I hope you all enjoyed the fight, and definitely the main event is being much spoken about today. Now I will do a separate breakdown of Beterbiev-Bivol, but what I'd like to do to kind of discuss the undercard is rate my most surprising results from least surprising to most surprising, because more than a few fights ended in what we could call a somewhat surprising manner. But we'll start with number 5, which basically means I didn't find this outcome surprising at all, and that was Chris Eubank versus Camille Sheta. Now that ended in a KO in the 7th round because the referee chose to stop the fight. Now, not surprising in more than one way, but we do know that they want to set up Eubank versus Ben, so I don't want to say this was a warm-up fight for Eubank, but you know, you can kind of read the tea leaves. It's also not shocking that the ref stopped it, because Sheta got dropped a couple of times, and by the 7th round he would have needed a KO in the 8th through 12th round to secure a W, which did not look at all likely. Now, the only other thing I will add about that is I would have preferred to see Sheta's corner stop the fight rather than have the ref just wave it off, because, you know, even though Sheta got dropped with that body shot, he did rise to beat the count, so he's showing us that he's game, and it's sort of a shame for the ref to just wave it off. The other thing that I don't know that I would like to see is have the referee speak to Camille's corner before that round started, if that was the referee's mindset. Like, you've got it. It's helpful if you tell the corner, look, your fighter touches the canvas one more time, I'm going to stop it. This allows the corner to sort of also reinforce that sense of urgency to the fighter, or to just, you know, be prepared for that outcome. So since I wasn't able to see the fights live, I don't know if that got communicated to Sheta's corner prior to the 7th round. Maybe some of you who saw the fight live, or were even there in person perhaps, could let us know how that went down. Number 4 most surprising outcome, which again means it's not really that surprising, was Jai Opetaia's win over the very game Jack Massie. Now, in this case, you know, Jack's corner did stop the fight. I believe it was in the 6th round. So props to Joe Gallagher for doing that, for literally throwing in the towel. I think, you know, no fighter wants to get stopped, of course, but it's somewhat a little more palatable, I guess you could say, in a sense, if you know that it was your corner who chose to stop the fight, and you know that they have your best interest at stake. Now, the sort of surprising thing about the fight itself was the fact that it looked to me like Jack Massie chose to fight Jai's game versus Jai. I said in my pre-fight breakdown that I did think Jai would stop him or knock him out, but I thought Jack would try to press in a little more and fight at Jack's distance, which is more the middle range or up and tight, and just make it kind of a grindy, grapply fight. But you know, he just was not able to do that, and it looked like he was trying to trade more from the outside, which was Jai's game. But absolute props to Jack Massie for making this a fight, and for you know, for just showing a lot of heart and willingness to bang hard. Now, my 3rd most surprising outcome is the most controversial one apparently today. Looking in the rearview mirror, the fact that Beterbiev got a unanimous decision victory over, split decision victory over Bivol. Sorry, that's a majority draw, meaning one judge called it majority decision, meaning one judge called it a draw and 2 judges gave Beterbiev the decision. So one judge scored it 114-114 even, one judge scored it 115-113, and one judge scored it 116-112. Now, I'm going to say I wasn't surprised, because I did call Beterbiev to win, although I did think he'd win the stoppage. So I didn't get that part right, but I did get the winner correct. Now the internet is upset and surprised, but I'm not. And you could certainly listen to my pre-fight breakdown, but I will do a post-fight breakdown. And because there were a few other things that did come up in terms of how both fighters chose to fight that I hadn't predicted. So I do want to outline those for you. But let's move on. So the second most surprising outcome was the fact that Fabio Wardley KO'd Frazer Clarke in the first round. Now, fight fans, if you have not seen Wardley Clarke 1, I highly recommend that fight. It's just absolutely action-packed, very exciting. And so I was not expecting necessarily a KO, and certainly not a first-round KO. But it looks to me like Fabio caught Frazer a little bit cold, meaning Frazer was a little bit cold perhaps. I think I mentioned in my my breakdown of Wardley Clarke 1 that I was not terribly fond of Clarke's trainer, who just, in my opinion, seems to be a little bit too young and a little bit too much of a yes man, or a little too inexperienced. So that said, it looks to me like Fabio Wardley has the sort of has the older and more experienced corner. Regardless, it was Fabio's patented overhand right that started the trouble. Now, Clarke chose to keep himself in that corner and try to fire back with uppercuts and whatnot, but he then made a fatal error when Wardley kind of bullied him a little more and turned him. Like, what he did was what a kickboxing coach has taught me, which is like to cut an angle and then to post on the fighter's shoulder to push them away. And that way, as they're sort of looking away from you, you've got him set up for a head kick. Now, in this particular case, Wardley just pushes on Clarke's left shoulder, the back of his left shoulder, to push him facing into the ropes, away from him. So now that means Clarke has to then do a 180 to turn around and face his opponent. But in that exact moment, he's 100% vulnerable. Now, having your chest against the ropes, looking out at the audience, that's not a position you're going to drill, just because it's nonsensical to drill that in the gym. However, that's what makes me wonder if Clarke was adequately warmed up, because he should have had the presence of mind to just know, fighter instincts. Like, I'm in a very bad position. I need to keep my guard up and maybe weave as I turn around 180, because he just knows he's wheeling around blind. He's in a really bad position, horrible position, and so he better protect himself. So I don't know, that's just sort of, if you had the presence of mind because you were mentally warmed up, you would have had up a double high guard and done a weaving motion really down low as you turn 180 to then face your opponent. But he didn't do that, so he got nailed a few more times, and then it was finally another overhand right that sent him falling into the ropes on one knee. And he just looked horrible. I felt really bad for Clarke, with his mouth askew like that and his eyes still shut. He was knocked out, and hopefully he didn't suffer too much structural damage to his cheekbone or his jaw. But really not concerning. It was a concerning look on Frazer Clarke. But absolute props to Fabio for getting that stoppage in the first round. Now, the number one most surprising outcome of that whole Beterbiev-Bivol card was absolutely Ben Whitaker versus Liam Cameron. That fight ended in a technical decision split draw. So the only winners from that fight were the house, if you decided to wager, because who in the heck is ever going to make that type of wager unless you came up with some really strange parlay? I don't know. Now, the way that came about is that both fighters tumbled out of the ring, that in and of itself was very odd, because Liam Cameron had like one underhook, one overhook. He's got Ben Whitaker's back against the ropes, and then they go tumbling over the top rope. So it's really hard to tell from the footage available whether that's more Liam Cameron pushing or it's Ben Whitaker pulling, but I suspect it may have been a little bit of both. The question there is, why would Ben Whitaker want to go head first and backwards over the ropes? Very strange if he had any sort of part in that fall. So then they determined that Ben Whitaker is unable to continue, but the fight has gone past 3 rounds, so then they need to go to the scorecards. And lo and behold, one judge has it a draw, one judge has it for Liam Cameron, and the third judge has it for Ben Whitaker, with a differential of 1 point either way. So hence we have a technical decision split draw. Now, will they run it back? Something tells me that Ben Whitaker may or may not want a rematch. Here's the other thing that I found really odd in that fight, is that Ben did not seem to be himself. And on one hand, that was good, because he was not doing all of his antics and showboating. The really concerning thing for me was, I tuned in or heard some of the British commentary, and they were saying, oh gee, why doesn't he drop his hands? And it's like, are you guys asking him to start his antics and showboat? I mean, I understand that that's not what we're used to seeing, but I would say if I was a trainer for him, that's the habit I want him to stop, so he can focus his energy and mental energy on getting a KO, or at least getting a TKO by unleashing, barrages of punches and forcing the referee to stop the fight. But we really, really, really don't need to see Ben Whitaker doing all this sort of dancing and prancing and taunting, particularly, because it doesn't add anything to the fight. Now, if a fighter wants to whisper sweet nothings, as we say, in their opponent's ear when they're in a clinch, or if they want to make the occasional facial gesture, or even, alley shuffle type footwork gesture to kind of taunt or intimidate their opponent, I can't begrudge a pro fighter any of that, especially if it sort of, helps them get their ego and their spirits up and sort of into the fight a little bit more. But, all those movements that Ben Whitaker was doing before and absolutely taunting his opponents, I felt was just, a waste of physical and mental energy. Now, that said, was the lack of Whitaker antics because Whitaker was out of sorts somehow? Was he not feeling well? I mean, I guess we'll find out in the upcoming few days if Whitaker or Team Whitaker cares to comment on that. But one of the viewers, Martin, asked a really important question, which is, did Ben Whitaker effectively quit in this fight? That's a great question, because I think it boils down to, how much did Ben cause that tumble out of the ring, or out of, over the ropes, which is ridiculous, right? They fell over the 4th rope onto the ring apron. Again, I can't fathom why someone would be willing to semi-suplex their opponent with them going head first backwards over the ropes. But if that was Ben's thought of how to end this fight or get out of continuing the fight, then that's shows really, a mental weakness on his part, which would have me absolutely question his mettle and whether or not he should even think of trying to vie for world championship title. That is absolutely not a champion's mindset. I'm guessing that there may have been something else going on that, to explain Ben Whitaker's sort of uncharacteristic behavior and the way he fought. And so if any of you have any insights onto what was going on sort of behind the scenes with Ben, I'd be really curious and happy to hear about it. So let me know what your favorite moments were last night on the Beterbiev-Bivol Undercard. As I said, I'm going to devote a completely separate video to discuss Beterbiev-Bivol and the outcome. Thanks again to all those viewers who joined us for our impromptu live stream at the tail end of Beterbiev-Bivol. I really appreciated all your comments and our discussion. I had a lot of fun, and thank you again to Joe for being so kind and generous as to bequeath several viewers with a membership. So of course our memberships are always open to everybody for the price of $3 a month. All members get to earn cool little belt rank badges, just like the martial arts, and they help drive the content of this channel. I think we've had some really terrific discussions amongst our members, so please feel free to join us on the membership side. As always, if you enjoyed this breakdown, please feel free to scroll over to the right and leave a super thanks, or you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/Hamaguchi Fight and purchase a coffee. Thanks again for listening.